What's going on, everybody? We are at I feel like Eric, we're at like the World Series of like podcast guests over here, and I was like, hey man, we've got a special guest who I know loves baseball. Go get a baseball jersey. Let's see what happens. And then I was like, wait a minute, the only baseball jersey I've got is the one that I had since I was 10 years old. Look at that, and it still
Still fits.
fits.
Still fits,
It
man.
still fit. I was a beast when I was 10. You know what I mean? I was 5'9", 170 pounds when I was 10 years old. And look, it still fits. But Dr. Worster, I've got a connection, man. Look, we got Principal Kafele on the show. What is going on? Welcome, Principal Kafele, Jersey City. Now I gotta share this now. So I am like strung out, like tired, like I think in Denver, maybe Principal Kafele with Denver,
Denver.
and getting on this flight to Fresno, California, and
Yeah.
I'm in line, they call everybody, they're calling the groups and everything, and I turn over to my left, and I'm like, that cat looks like someone I know, and I'm not a starstruck person. I am not a starstruck person, but I was like, I think I got the tingles. I think that's Principal Kafele, like standing right behind me, and I'm like, Rudy, and he's like, hey, we start talking. I'm like, yes, all right, I'm not crazy, and we're talking, we're wrapping it up, you know what I mean? We're chit chatting, and then they call everyone. They're giving us dirty looks as we were supposed to be queued up. And I was like, hey, man, what a small world. Principal Kafele on the way to Fresno. How you doing, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm on fire. I took a month off, 'cause
Oh,
that was like right near the end when you saw me. So yeah, I took a month off and I'm just chilling, man. I feel really good. I feel so good. I don't know if I want to ever go back out there, but I'll
Uh,
be
you know, uh, I hear you, man. I hear you. When I'm home, like I was home, I'm home this week. So this is my week off. And my wife's got so many honey-do lists. It is crazy. I was painting. She looked on the Instagram and saw people putting like molding on doors. So I've been putting molding on doors, and I'm like, now that algebra is coming back. Now I remember why I learned this algebra. So I can't wait to get back on the road because I'm done with all these chores. So that's how I'm rolling. So
understood.
well, Principal Kafele, we are both fans. Just here, I have a few of your books right here on hand.
Yeah.
Closing the Attitude Gap,
Yeah.
the Assistant Principal 50, the Principal 50. In Closing the Attitude Gap, you list three questions. One of those first ones is, who are you? I think most of our audience is familiar with you, but for that 2% who is not familiar, Principal Kafele, who are you?
Yeah, I'm a long-time educator, starting in 1988 as a fifth grade teacher in Brooklyn, New York City, and made my way back home because I'm not from New York, but New York had the easiest route to get into the industry. So I
mm,
went that route and then came on back home and did it the right way. Taught for a number of years and led for even more years, but was speaking all along. I was speaking since '86 and just kept doing it, honing my craft. And that was really the dream. Teaching wasn't the dream. Principal leadership wasn't the dream. It was speaking. So,
hmm.
at around 2011, after I had done literally hundreds of presentations, I said, I think this is the time. I was 50 years old at the time, and I took an early retirement. And I've been out here speaking for the past 14 years, speaking and consulting, living the dream.
And doing pretty well at it, my friend.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
So what put that in your mind back in the 80s?
Yeah, I became this voracious reader when I was in undergrad school. And I mean, I was reading all this African American history, to be very specific, just reading, 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 reading. And my heroes became people that I didn't know existed before I started doing all this reading. And these folks, for a living, they either wrote or they spoke, right?
Hmm.
Their genre of speaking was very different from mine because we're talking about leaders in terms of civil rights and so forth. But the commonality was they spoke and they wrote. And these became my heroes. So I wanted to do what they did, but there were some other folks in a different genre of speaking, such as motivational speakers, your Les
Hmm.
Browns and Zig Ziglars of the world. And I said, I want to do that too.
Hmm.
So I took this amalgamation of things and entities and brought it all together. And that created Principal Kafele as a speaker. So, people tell me you're very inspirational. So, okay, that's coming from the Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, and so many others' side.
Mhm.
But then others remind me, but you also bring a very serious message. And I said, that's from the other part. And we brought it together, and here I am, and it's been this obviously for a very long time.
Can I ask?
However, I'll say this though, Dr. Worcester, you go by Principal Kafele and not Speaker Kafele. So
Yeah,
obviously, Principal is still a
matters.
very important role for you.
Yeah, I see the world through the lens of a principal. Um, not a speaker, not a whole lot of other things that I've done with my life. But when I'm watching sports, I'm looking at the breakdown of a game through the lens of a principle.
Mm,
I'm going through life. I'm looking at it through the lens of a principal. When like we were together in Denver Airport, I'm as a principal, I'm looking at the cleanliness of a building. Whether it was my building or buildings that I work in as a consultant. So when I'm in an airport, I'm looking at it through that lens. So I'm going to
sure.
see some things that the average person would never pay attention to. Something as simple as signage.
Mm,
Right. I'm paying attention because some airports, the signage is so much more superior than say some other airport where you get confused and you're not really sure. But a particular Denver's very good with it. I'm not going to get lost in that airport, right?
yeah.
I'm saying all that to say that I'm just looking at things. I'm looking at life. I'm looking at stimuli through the lens of a school principal. So I kept that name, and I'm gonna give you this too since we're on it. The movie What's Love Got to Do with It?
Mm,
Ike and Tina Turner. At the end of the movie, when she was suing Ike Turner, she told the judge, "I don't want anything from him. All I want is my name."
my name is right.
So when I left my principalship, I said, "I'm taking this name with me. I'm Principal Kafele." So more people know me by that name than my actual name.
I love it. That's great. That's great.
So Nathaniel, that's a great. Did you might have been going to bring this up? Are you familiar with the book Invisibles by David Zweig, Principal Kafele?
No, I don't know that one.
So
That's a
he's
good
he's
one.
an author and he wrote this book called Invisibles, and it's all about people who are kind of behind the scenes and how they can be masters at their work, but you never know it. The
Yeah.
first chapter is all about people who create signs in airports. And
Oh,
it's the art of that. And it's really, really interesting. Again, it's something that you mentioned it, but it's not something you think about very often of how do people get from point A to point B and what design elements are there. So
yeah.
it's a very interesting read if you ever want to learn more about it.
It sounds like it because we lose sight of the or track of the people behind the scenes who are doing the
Mm,
heavy lifting. We see the one up front, not realizing the one up front probably didn't do half as much as the ones who were behind the scenes and nobody gets to see.
Yes.
absolutely.
And that's part of principal leadership as well.
Yep.
I love the fact that you talk about that lens, and it's actually an interesting. I think it's a beautiful burden because I feel the exact same way. I can't go into a Five Guys. I don't know if you're a burger guy, without saying, "Wow, look, they look at the signage that they have and all how the accolades that they have." I wonder why schools don't highlight their vision and mission like a freaking hamburger place does. I was
Yeah,
in a holiday. I don't do. Every now and then I gotta rough and tumble it at a Holiday Inn Express. I was in a Holiday Inn Express and they had a poster that said rate us A plus A B C D, and I was just like, wow, wouldn't that be something if schools, when a parent walks into a front office, they gave that quantitative feedback right off the spot like that. So I hear you. I'm
yeah,
constantly having that kind of like lens, and sometimes it's kind of like a burden because I can't just let well enough alone. You
yeah,
know what
yeah.
I
I'm,
mean?
I'm I'm in the same place. I mean, even like when you board Delta Airlines, I hope we can say airlines on here, brand names. When you
Sure, why
board,
not?
yeah, when you board Delta, invariably next to the door, to the right of the door, are all their awards
Yeah.
on stickers, right? So United, which is my airline because Newark is a hub, they have nothing. So I literally called them one day and I said, don't you guys have any awards? Like Delta, they flashed theirs on the door. You can't miss them. Where are yours? And the lady said, the rep said, she said, that's a good question. I really don't know.
Mm.
You call customer service and, a little deeper than the level I was talking. I didn't follow it up, but those are just things I look for. So as a principal,
I
I
agree.
made sure that whatever accolades we had, you're gonna know that when you walk through that front door.
Yeah,
That's important.
the business world calls those touch points.
Yeah,
Touch points, right? And I love that. It's like every time we interact with a business, well, let's just say schools, right? Every time we act with a school, those are touch points that either highlight our vision and mission or distract us from our vision and
yeah,
mission. And
right.
I wish that principals, and we're going to get into this, right? Especially we're going to get into APs because all principals were APs, most of them, right? We're going to talk about that. I think we need to get out of this is just my editorial opinion, Principal Kafele. We spend too much time in school leadership echo chambers. And oftentimes teachers teach how they were taught, and leaders lead how they were led. And Worcester, I think we need to get out of our school box, so to speak, and start looking at, better or worse, private industries. Look and see what's around us, and let's just steal and cross-pollinate these leadership ideas so that we can start enhancing our practices. I don't think we do that enough.
No,
It
yeah, yeah,
Principal Kelly, I was right now looking through this book because there's a quote when I was rereading it for today that stuck out, and I had to go back and look and see the year it was written. There's
yeah,
something in this book that says like things have never been harder for leaders than they have right now.
yeah,
And I'm like, well, that really resonates in 2025. Let me look and
yeah.
see when
How
this was
about that?
written. And it's like 2012,
Yeah.
2013, at least was the print date. Um,
Hopefully we'll revise it at some point. They keep asking me to. I just got to.
but I think things just 10 years ago, it was already the point where things were overwhelming for our leaders. I don't think they've gotten any easier. You?
No, I think they're more complicated, much more complex now, than they were there. Then the world has just shifted. The education landscape has shifted in so many ways. That yeah, there's just so much to know. So when I wrote that book, my knowledge was what it was at the time of 2013,
Mm,
and here we are in 2025. I know so much more. We all do than we knew back then. There's so much, a lot of times people will ask me, they say, "Would you ever go back to being a principal?" And I miss it badly, but I doubt it. But
mhm,
but the main thing is, I say to them, if I did want to go back, there's a steep learning curve. I've kind of kept up with things as a consultant, but I'm not the practitioner. So if I go into a building now as practitioner, I mean, it's not even the same children anymore. You
mm,
know, the children I left, Facebook was still in its infancy, and I don't think Instagram existed. Right? TikTok certainly didn't exist. So now, all these years since then, 14 years ago, the children are different just on
yeah,
the basis of social media alone, right? Now, of course, I'm on social media, so I've kept up with it, but I'm not using it the way that they use it. So there's so much to learn about children. Then you got the younger teacher who's in the building that wasn't there before. When I was there, you still didn't really see teachers with tattoos, right? So therefore, if you interview a teacher with one, you depending on what the tattoo was, you may have some level of skepticism. But
mm,
now you'd be a fool to judge a teacher on a tattoo, right? That could be the state teacher of the year in the future sitting at your desk in that interview or wherever you conduct your interview, and you made a judgment on a tattoo. So things have changed, and tattoos are not an issue anymore unless it's something vulgar that they have on them. But out, be that as it may, attire has changed. There's so much that has changed. The way folks interact with young people, a lot of that's changed. Some of it I'd have to steer people back to the old school where I was,
sure.
because there's certain things that, even though the world has shifted, I'm not at a point where I'm going to tolerate things that are counter to my values, counter to
Mhm.
my principles.
I think that's a fascinating area that we can kind of maybe even dwell into a little bit. And Worcester, I'm curious what your thoughts are with that. I I'm not that old, but I consider myself a little old school. I think there's some values that make here's the thing. I think our profession is the profession that makes all professions possible.
Yeah,
And I think we should hold ourselves to a higher standard. I don't know. Call me naive. I don't know, whatever. But like, if you've got a dragon tattoo on your face and you're working with kindergarten, it's probably not the school for you. I'm probably not going to hire you. I don't care if you whatever's going on. Like, I don't know. I might have some second thoughts, unless you've got a track record that's great. I don't know if I would. Sometimes I get a little cringy when I see guys wearing shorts in school and they're not the PE teacher.
Yeah,
I'm just like, that's just not me. I mean, we should comport ourselves. This is just my feelings, right? Like we are higher than the 7-Eleven employees. Like we should be higher than the McDonald's workers. We are a beautiful profession. And if we don't hold ourselves up high, then how can anyone else expect us? How can we demand excellence when we look like peasants? I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know. Worster, what do you
No,
think?
We disagree at times, Principal Kafele. This is not one of those times. It's funny, and I feel the same way as both of you. And it's a profession where people are so desperate to be respected and elevated. And like Nathaniel said, it's challenging for the public to do that when you come in with your holy t-shirt and ripped jeans. So there is something about how you show yourself to the world. And I get it if you're a PE teacher or if you are working with students who are spitting and biting at you,
Yeah, it's a
there
different thing.
might be some revisions to what you're wearing. But if you want to elevate the profession, that starts with how you look. Because that's
Yeah.
the first thing people see, right?
that's
Call
right.
me old school. I don't know. I'm not a principal, but I don't know, man. Like, so Principal Kafele, I gotta talk. I want to. There's two things that's just dying. First of all, you're such a dynamic speaker, and I want to get into the art and alchemy of speaking, and then after we get into that, I want to get into the AP world. So I love comedians. I
Mm,
love comedians. Not so much because I find comedians funny, just bear with me with that. It's the cadence, it's the flow. Like I love the command a comedian can have in an audience. I
yeah,
watch TED Talks all the time because that's where my attention, right? And I was preparing for a TED Talk. I did a TED Talk, TEDx Talk, and I bet I
right.
watched 1,000 TEDx Talks is just watching how they command the stage. What do I do with my hands? How do I stop? How do I do all these things? So there's an art and alchemy to speaking. You've been speaking forever. Who do you learn from now? What's your art and alchemy when it comes to speaking? I'm curious about that, and then we'll get into some AP stuff.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the question. Again, going back and just studying just so many different people and so many different genres of oratory, um, allowed me to create my own style. And I know that my style is me. It's mine.
Hmm.
It's like when you write a sole source letter, and then when you're trying to not avoid having to do that bid, right? And I'm like, no, I can give you the sole source. Can't nobody else do this, right? Well, it's the same thing with the way I present, and I would say probably most of us out here. It's my style, and it's me, and quite frankly, it's not for everybody.
Mm,
Some because I can get loud, right? I can get very animated, and I know that that style is not necessarily for everyone. So I have to make certain adaptations as I move about the country, and knowing my audience, reading the room, analyzing the audience, so that you know who you can be. But I do want to be my authentic self. But I may just lower it a little bit
hmm.
in different places so that they can hear me and not get caught up into my delivery. Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I don't want, but I don't want to say that I deliberately created a style, a delivery. I didn't.
Hmm.
It's what happened organically. And that's just who and what I became as a presenter. But I do teach public speaking in various different realms. And it's just the rudiments. But a part of that conversation is just what you become, who you become. That's going to come out of you as you do it. But
I
you
that's
do
that's aw- that's
it.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
See, with me, going back to beginning in '86, I'm doing free presentations anywhere anybody would have me in Jersey, New York City, Philadelphia, just anywhere someone would have me, I'm there. It's
Hmm.
free, and I did it for free until 2004. So almost 20 years, I'm wherever, and the word was out, he's good, he's a speaker, get him, and I'm sending flyers to different people. A lot of times it was PTA meetings, it was banquets, it was community oriented functions, things like that. And then finally I had a breakthrough in 2004 with an ASCD conference in New Orleans, and and everything changed from there.
That's awesome. But you did your chops though, right? You
Yeah,
paid your dues. You paid your
paid my
dues.
dues, paid my dues.
Your overnight success took 20 years.
Yeah, and see that's where people get it wrong sometimes. They see you, they see me, they see finished products, or at least finished in terms of where we are at that point, and they think they can just jump in here and get there. Can you hook me up with this presentation, this engagement, whatever it is? I'm like, wait a minute, wait.
Mm,
I did a lot of crawling, for 20 years almost. I did a lot of bleeding, a lot of sweating and crying, and all that kind of stuff. I said, I can teach you that, but I can't teach you to go from nobody to somebody.
yeah.
I'm not even willing to teach you that, even if I had the ability to do so, because if I grinded for all those years, then you've got to grind. Not maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not as long as I did, but you got to know what it is to hustle and grind, so that
Yeah.
you can appreciate the fruit that much more.
Yep.
You attain it.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah,
The people, yeah, people will see like, like if you have when you're on a stage, it is I find it to be the most humbling blessing out there
yeah,
because someone has said for whatever reason, whether it's you or through, a company or organization, like you get to be able to bring every failure you've ever had in your life to that stage
right,
and help people not make those same mistakes. You also get to bring the blessings of all these people that were surrounding you, from the custodian to the bus driver to the cafeteria lady, your mom and dad, everyone that was in your tribe, right? Everyone that was in your village. You are bringing not just you, but everybody to that space. And so what a humbling environment that is to be able to share, because it's not really about you. You're just an instrument. That's how I see it. I'm just an instrument. It's the breath of everyone else that's helped me is really what's showing in that space.
I agree, and that's why I'm also a storyteller and tell so many stories about just various people, from my mother and wife all the way to the children in the school, who shaped, influenced me in whatever capacity. So when you can take that information and fold it into stories, it's heard and retained so much longer. It's
Mm.
that much more empowering. It's that much more inspiring, not just informative. So, if when I'm sitting in the audience listening to a speaker, when that speaker can take all that content and fold it into a story that resonates,
Hmm.
Yep.
then I
When
really
people are
hold on to that.
Yep.
when people are going through and doing interviews, I often give them that advice. Find an impactful story that you can share. And if you haven't gotten there, like in the last question, weave that thing in because that's going to be that will be what people remember, right?
Yeah,
They're going to know
Hmm.
your three authors that you cited. They're not going to know where you went to elementary school. They are going to remember that story you shared of how you impacted students.
that's right. That's right. That matters. That
I think leaders need to know that storytelling is the language of leadership.
yeah.
I think it's what I mean. If we go back to like early cavemen, storytelling was how we survived. We told stories, we sang songs. It was the language of survival. And I think that we leaders miss that opportunity. It's because when you are leading, once again, it's just like you're on a stage. When you walk into that school, you are trying to tell a story. You're either creating a story or telling a story.
Hmm.
And so when you meet that parent that wants to come to your school, what story are you telling them about your school? When you're interviewing a new teacher, what story are you telling them about your school? When you are having to correct a student, you're doing that through a story. What story are you telling that student? And I think that we forget that like the best leaders are the best storytellers, not
Yeah.
fiction tellers, but
Right.
storytellers, right? So let's jump on. let's go on that AP. Let's go jump on that AP train. I don't know a lot of people that are as devoted to the growth and development of assistant principals as Principal Kafele. I direct any AP. I was like, you got to go find Principal Kafele. You got to join that group. So just talk about why your efforts to grow APs. Where did that come from? Where did that stem from? And because listen, man, a lot of APs they think their job is compliance, complaints, and consequences. And
Yeah,
I beg to differ.
yeah. You know, I was only an AP for 1 year, and it was the worst year of my educational life. Um, I was a full-time disciplinarian, like so many of them are, particularly in urban and rural districts. I worked the cafeteria and obviously the buses. But then the fourth piece was I was also responsible for the teacher supplies, ordering them and delivering them, distributing them. Oh, and keeping an inventory of all their supplies. And this was during
Jeez.
the school day. This was what the principal wanted. So when I became principal of that same school the next year, that experience never left me. So now for the next 14 years, I keep referring back, just thinking about that year. It was horrible. And then once I started presenting full time and consulting full time, I'm still thinking about that, but now I'm talking about it. I'm talking about it to people I don't know, meaning audiences and clients as a consultant. So as I kept talking about it, I said, okay, I'm talking about it, but I'm not teaching about it.
Mm,
I'm just talking about it. So I said, so in 2018, literally, I said, I'm going to write a blog about this. And I wrote this blog post called The Assistant Principalship, the most misunderstood and underutilized position in all of education. I had written umpteen blog posts before that, and they got good traction. But this one went viral. And I
mhm,
said, wow, um, what is that about on the one hand? But on the other hand, I said, I know what it's about because it resonated. So I reached out to my publisher, ASCD. I said, look, I just wrote this blog post and people are reading this thing. Let me turn this into a book. So we turned it into the Assistant Principal 50. And I wrote it quickly because all that content was in my head. It was just taking that 1,000 word blog post and expanding it to about 50,000 words.
mhm,
So and it's the best selling book that I've written to date because
mm,
so many assistant principals out here, they go to graduate school, they want to become principals. So they go to graduate school knowing that they're not going to transition to the principalship, they're going to become assistant principals. So in my mind, I said, okay, so if they're going to become assistant principals, where's that literature? Where's that curriculum? Right? So I said, I think I'm gonna jump on that. I want to provide that information. So not only did I write the Assistant Principal 50, but I wrote the Aspiring Principal 50, gave it the wrong title because people didn't understand that I wrote that book for the assistant principal.
mm.
So the translation a little bit got lost. I still haven't figured out how to work that, but we'll figure it out. But then I went on and wrote the Assistant Principal 50. And those 50s for the people who will hear this simply means that the books are comprised of 50 self-reflective questions with content. So asking oneself the question in the first person, and then with the commentary, what is it that I'm doing as it relates to this question?
Mm,
So went on and wrote a book called The Assistant Principal Identity, and that was comprised of 50 questions, but 50 stories, right?
Mm.
And then the content that went along with it. And then wrote a book called The Assistant Principal Impact, but never published it because I had the bright idea of writing the book behind me. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? So the Assistant Principal Impact was ready to go. And then
mm,
I say to the publisher, I need to write a book on instructional leadership. Right. And said, well, I thought you were going to do the assistant principal book. I said, I am. But this
mm,
thing is like right here, right now. So I took the month of May off 2024, and I said, I'm going to write this entire book in the month of May 2024. I finished that book on May 18th, 50,000 words.
mm,
And so my wife and I went to Aruba and I did the editing there. But the point of the matter is you asked a question about the AP, but I have just as much intensity about instructional leadership, but particularly, here's where we
Yeah.
go full circle, with the assistant principal,
Yeah.
right? So, yes, I'll talk instructional leadership with the principal, but a lot of that conversation is principal. How are you utilizing your assistant principal when this person is supervised? Let's say it's just you and the assistant principal in the building. When this person is supervising half your staff,
Mm.
how is this person being utilized instructionally, right? So now, if this person says to me, for example, well, we've got a lot of discipline issues here, behavior is a challenge, and I say to them, no, it's not. And I
Mm.
don't know your students. Your challenge is the culture of your building, which is given license to these undesirable behaviors. So, as long as you don't give love to the culture, then the culture is going to rebel and wreak havoc in your school. And then you'll think you've got these behavioral challenges, but it's
Mm.
really not what you think it is. So, I'm saying all of that to say, so therefore, with the AP, I'm saying the AP, we need to we need to rethink who you are and what you do, but to principal, to director at central office, to assistant superintendent at central office, and to superintendent at central office. And I'll even pull the board members in here.
Mm.
You need to understand that your test scores are not just staying stagnant because children are lacking motivation or teachers don't have the right professional development, whatever those excuses are. A lot of that is because you have half your staff, which is going through an entire year uncoached. I'll
Mm.
say to the superintendent, I'll say to the principal, watch a football game on Thursday, Sunday, or Saturday college or Sunday, right? Um, and pay attention not just to what's on the field, but keep looking at the sidelines. Just
Mm.
keep looking. And
Yeah.
you're going to see a bunch of guys and women in today's times. You're going to see a bunch of folks who are coaching throughout the game.
Yeah.
They'll never pan the camera over to the sidelines and them people are sitting down eating a snack or something.
Mm.
They're coaching throughout the game. And then what you'll never see is that they're coaching throughout the week and watching game film. But
Mm.
then, I compare that to a school. I say it's analogous to a school in the sense of school, anytime students are in the building, it's game day. It is game day. So now the teacher becomes the athlete and the principal and the assistant principal are the coaches. So now we can be in school, meaning game day, and a teacher can go a full 100. Let's say there's 180 days in school. A teacher can go 178 days,
Mm.
no substantive pedagogical interaction with their coach, their supervisor, with the exception of those two mandatory observation and evaluation days, right? So, and then we scratch our head. Why are our achievement levels so low? Well, look at some athletes who are uncoached, and you'll be asking the question, why are we not winning games?
Mm.
Right? Why is the athlete running down running in the wrong direction on the field? Right? You haven't taught him anything. You haven't coached him or her in any way. The coaching matters. So the full circle to your question is
Yeah.
I'm going hard on the assistant principal, but I'm going hard on instructional leadership at the same time.
Brilliant.
I guess the question in that, not all coaches, but many coaches were once players, so they lived in that ecosystem of constant feedback.
Yeah.
The system you're describing isn't what most of our leaders faced when they were teachers. So how can they create this paradigm that they themselves didn't experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's why I do the work I do because you have some. Here's what I preach: an assistant principal can be that what we just described, that disciplinarian, etc. And now, for whatever reason, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, whomever says we're ready to promote this person. So, like me, so now this person becomes the principal. All this person knows is how to detain and suspend children. They can do that very effectively. They know how to stand up in a cafeteria and tell kids to throw trays in the garbage
Hmm.
and line up correctly and lower the noise and all that kind of stuff and load buses and unload buses, but they know nothing about leading schools. Right. So then a guy like myself and probably the two of you as well and others will say, wait a minute, pump the brakes. That's not principal leadership. You can go to your high school and hire a senior to come to your school part-time and do that which they're paying you six figures to do.
Exactly.
Bring a senior in, right?
Bring a grandma in. Bring
Yeah,
just bring
yeah.
a yeah, just bring a grandma in. She could do all that stuff
He could read referrals, preach sermons, and sign them and let you know what the consequence is. The
and
senior
hand
could
out
do that.
supplies. Oh my gosh. You know, we need to stop. I think we need to stop calling them assistant principals. I think we need to start calling them aspiring principals. Just
Yes, sir.
stop. You're not an assistant principal. You're an
Yeah,
aspiring principal.
that's it. That's a better title.
It's a
But
better
they
title.
but they
Which
aren't all
which
aspiring principals
which
that
is
they
which was
some
why I
some are very
gave that
happy to
book
be
that
APs.
title, but no, people didn't understand where I was going with it. The only one that understood where I was going with it was me, and that's not good when you're trying to sell a book.
Yeah, and Worcester, I'm going to push back on that because you said not all APs want to be aspiring principals.
Not all APs want to be principals.
Then I'm not hiring you. And I think that's the mindset. I'm not hiring you. If you don't
They
want to
better keep it
lead,
a secret then.
yeah, you better not say that on the thing. So imagine an AP saying, "All right, listen, I just want a job where I can do compliance, consequences, and complaints. I really just want to hand out school supplies. I really want to do testing. I really love discipline. I really love those things." I got to be honest with you. I don't know why a district would hire someone like that, Worcester. I don't know
Or,
why
or-
someone would hire
but,
someone like
but they
that.
wouldn't have to say that necessarily. They could also say, I want to be somebody who finds a principal with a great vision and help them support that vision being carried out. What's wrong with that?
I don't know
Okay.
because the lie we're gonna get an argument now, Baruta. Here we go. But I'll tell you why. Because this job is about sustain legacy, and this is just how I see it. It's like I'm not always gonna be here as a principal. Principals
Sure.
go, we go.
Yep.
So I gotta treat you as high, like if you're gonna be working, and this is just for me. You don't have to come work for me. But if you just want to do that, and that's great, support my vision, support our school's culture. That's wonderful. But you may be someone higher than me may say, "Hey, you got to lead this school." And if I didn't put you in that situation to be the best damn principal you needed to be, I have failed my job. Just saying.
Yes,
But
sir.
that doesn't mean they want it. They may have the skills to do it. It still doesn't mean the principal position is you have so much responsibility. I just think some people are happy to not have that level of responsibility, who can still be phenomenal at supporting the vision of that school leader.
Then don't be an AP.
But a
Principal
be
Kafele, can
challenged.
you weigh in on this?
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually with you, Eric. It's there's a lot of great number twos out here who will admit that. Like
Mhm.
I want no parts of the principalship, but yet they're getting it done as a number two. There's just not enough of them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right? Because I encounter so many who are also either aspiring or content with number two, but they're not those instructional leaders. And for me, instructional leadership is where the rubber meets the road.
I agree.
That is the most important work. So if that person who's content with being a career number two, a career assistant principal, I'm not mad at you as long as you're willing to learn all facets of instruction of principal leadership, right? I want you to be conversant in the budget. I want you to understand school finance, right? I want you to
Yep.
understand all the things that I as principal do. I want and also let's flip it. I want to give you that exposure,
Hmm.
right? I don't want to hoard that. I want to make sure that you are well rounded. So I
Yep.
don't have to do everything. I don't have to be present. I can go to a week-long conference and I know that that school is in great hands with you.
Yes.
I can be at ease and enjoy the conference knowing that that school is being led by somebody competent.
Yep.
I want aspiring principals. I'm just saying.
I like it though. I like it. I like it. I like it.
Bro,
I guess I guess I guess I kind of like what you both are saying.
yeah, I mean, I want people that are hungry. I want people who want the smoke. I want people who want to be an instructional leader. Like
Yeah.
I want people passionate about that. But I'm not in that position anymore to make
But I
those
think you can be
decisions.
passionate and be happy to be a number two with the right number one. And when that principle shifts, I know that can be a motivating point for some APs to want to change. But yeah, I think people who are great at supporting others is a very valuable position in our schools.
We're all supporting others. Even the best principals are still supporting someone else, you know.
Sure.
So servant leadership is we're serving and we're being served. I mean, again, it kind of goes both ways. Um,
I had a guest on my live stream last Saturday, and we were talking from the vantage point of the AP,
mm,
and he said I want to be number one at being number two.
yeah,
And
Love it.
yeah, it just you know, we had to stop at that point because I said, wait a minute,
that's great.
we need to talk about that because that resonated. I want to
Yeah.
be number one at being number two. That's it right there.
I like that. Wherever you are is where you're supposed to be. I
Yeah,
mean that I get that. My mama told me that. Like if you're gonna be the custodian, you be the best damn custodian that's ever been. You can be if you're gonna be be the best at wherever you are. And I just think like I it's interesting how some APs would be so comfortable in that role because like I also think like a principal should like come to that school once again editorial opinion exuding with positivity, exuding with confidence, exuding with we are going to roll up our sleeves and carry this out. And like you ask a teacher like, hey, would you ever want to be a principal? Oh God, no. Oh, that's the dark side. Ooh, why would I ever do that? And then
yeah,
watch some of this I call it crap on on social media where you've got like whole organizations, I'll call them out, bored teachers. I don't know if you've ever seen bored teachers. All they do is talk about how bad principals are. And so
yeah.
and it's like it blows my mind how we denigrate our leaders. Those leaders came from the trenches that you are in right now, and we should be like it's a great job. Now, I get it. It's a hard job because it's all this other stuff that sometimes from district folks are putting on our plate that keeps us up from instructional leadership. So I want to kind of like close out with this question, Principal Kafele. Like, how do we prioritize instructional leadership in a sea of spinning plates and everything that's urgent, but we need to focus on what's necessary? So how do we commit to that instructional leadership?
You know, for me, the first place is always the administrative leadership team and whomever else is on that leadership team. We got to be on the same page with that. In that same book I referenced, "What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise?" The longest chapter in that book is maximizing the administrative leadership team. And just in doing some quasi research on how often NFL coaches come
Mm,
together and meet during the season. I found that they're meeting 7 days a week. They don't have
daily.
off days, right? And you can't justify the day before the game nor the day after. The players are off, but not the coaches. So I said, well, wow, they're doing all that meeting for a 60-minute game. That's all it
Yes.
is, as you know, right? Not the 3 hours that the layperson thinks is there's 60 minutes.
In 60
I
minutes.
said, wow, a period in a school is just a tad over 60 minutes. And I can go to a given principal and ask, how often are you guys meeting, brainstorming, dissecting a day, whatever? And I get various responses, but the one that stands out most is the one that says maybe once every other week.
Mm,
Like, wait a minute. The NFL coach is meeting every day for a 60-minute game. You had 60 minutes in period one.
yeah.
You mean you're not coming together? So I'm saying that to say, so it starts there, but it doesn't end there. But
Yeah.
first, as a leadership team, we got to be on the same page that all of us there's consensus that instructional leadership matters. And then from there, now with staff, this is who we are in the face of staff. We're instructional leaders and we're explaining to them because they may not know why this is important because ultimately it cannot stop at us as instructional leaders devoid of a culture of instructional leadership.
Mm,
So starting with that team, I want to create this culture of instructional leadership where the teacher is accepting of us being in the classroom, welcoming, desirous of us being in that classroom because the teacher knows it's non-punitive, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
The teacher knows it's non-summative. We are there to build you, to grow you, to do it mutually. So we're creating this culture that this is who we are. So is it an overnight fix? No. But there's got to be a lot of intentionality with it toward creating this, as I always say, this culture of instructional leadership.
I
Right.
love it.
Yeah.
We are hoping to talk to a former NFL player soon, so we're going to bring that up, Nathaniel.
That's right.
Principal Kafele, three quick kind of lightning round questions to close us out. First, what current trends do you see in education that are inspiring you right now?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you were gonna ask me the ones that are discouraging me, the ones that are
That's the
inspiring me.
second question.
Yeah. I gotta be honest. There's nothing inspiring me now. Not
Okay.
not right now. I'm just
Then I will go to the other
yeah.
side. What's discouraging you?
Everything, but particularly the if I hope this is a space I can say this.
Whatever you want.
Those spaces where equity is discouraged. Equity is in my DNA. I was born with it as an educator, meaning there's a multi. I know this was lightning round. Please forgive me because I
It's
did
all good.
lightning
It's a
round.
long storm. It's
When
good.
folks do what I'm doing now, I get this. I get upset and I say, right? So, but real quick, there's no universal definition of equity, right? So you can have 25 people on a panel, which would be a huge panel, and ask them to define equity, and you'll probably get 25 different responses. I went on, I looked at the commonality in the definition, and I added something, and I said, like when we reduce fractions to their lowest common denominator, I said, let me reduce this word to its lowest common
Mm,
denominator. Equity is simply meeting the children where they are as they are, period. So then I'll say to the client, what is the issue? Right? And the client says, there is none. I say, okay. So whatever's in your head about equity is based on something you heard elsewhere. I'm telling you that the best classroom is where there's a teacher who says, of these 20 students in the room, I'm going to meet each of you where you are, but then put the three dots, dot, dot, dot. I'm going to meet you as you are, right? Not try to pretend you're something that you're not. So if
Mhm.
you're functioning way down here, I'm not going to try to meet you way up here because we'll never meet. But if I've developed the skill set of creating a true student-centered learning environment, and I can meet you wherever you are, whatever the neighborhood challenges are, whatever the home challenges are, I'm going to meet you right there because the potential is within you. So that's what discourages me, that half the nation will is doing everything they have to do to avoid that word, which
mm.
which which in my estimation is the most powerful word in all of education.
All right.
Thank you for that honest answer.
Yeah.
Number three.
And I think this is number two. This is number two. Number two, again, here are some of your books, Brew. Where can people find you, Principal Kafele?
Yeah, principalkafele.com.
PrincipalKafele.com.
Yeah,
And last one,
everything is there. So social media, everything is Principal Kafele. So Facebook, Principal Kafele, Twitter, Principal Kafele, one word, at Principal Kafele, LinkedIn, Principal Kafele, Instagram, Principal Kafele, and then YouTube. There's a Principal Kafele Speaks, but my main channel is the AP and New Principals Academy. That's the
All
live
right.
stream every Saturday morning at 10:55 Eastern Time. We stream from all those platforms I just named except Instagram, and any folks can join me. We have leadership talks. We go a little longer than you guys, though. We go anywhere from 2 to 3 hours.
I saw that. Yeah, my
Yeah.
attention span is 22 minutes. So
and Principal Kafele, what words of inspiration do you have for our educators and leaders out there?
Yeah, the words of inspiration are simply, despite whatever the storm, whatever your storms may be, do know that there's a bright sunny day around the corner. So the storm is when you get tested, and then that sunny day is when you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. Yeah.
Principal Kafele, it was so fortuitous. I love that word, fortuitous, to be able to see you in Denver. I'm gonna embarrass you. I was in coach. I was in coach with everyone else. This
Yeah.
guy was in first class, so
Yeah.
we didn't get. But I was like right behind him. I could see him just enough to be like, I got to work a little bit harder on my speaking game so I can get that first
Yeah.
class from Denver to Fresno. I got to work on that. But man, I'm so honored that our stars were able to cross. You are such a blessing and a gift to education.
I appreciate
Keep
it.
doing what you're doing. I think Eric and I were probably in an audience sometime somewhere in Prince William, like watching you just like tear up the stage. But I just feel like we just need more people like you because your passion aligns with your purpose. And I'll leave it at that on the
Yes,
community
sir.
connection.
Yes,
God
sir.
bless, sir. Thank you very much.
Bless.